When did your psycho ex-girlfriend show what psycho truly means? My ex-girlfriend Madison went completely psycho after I broke up with her when I caught her cheating on me with her coworker at the zoo. She'd slept with 3 different guys and probably a monkey while we were together, and somehow convinced herself I was the bad guy for leaving. When I started dating Irene 6 months later, Madison lost whatever sanity she had left and decided to make destroying my life her full-time job. It started small with her calling my phone at 2 a.m. and hanging up when I answered. Then she graduated to leaving dead flowers on my car windshield with notes saying, "Thinking of you." Irene thought it was creepy but manageable, until Madison started showing up at Irene's yoga class just to stare at her from across the room. The instructor had to ask her to leave 3 different times. Things escalated when we came home from dinner one night to find our apartment door slightly open. Nothing was stolen, but something felt off. 2 days later, we woke up covered in red welts. The exterminator confirmed what we feared: bed bugs everywhere. He said it looked like someone had deliberately released them based on the pattern. Cost us $2,000 to treat, and we had to throw out our mattress. A week after the bed bug incident, I woke up to the smell of smoke. Our doormat was on fire with lighter fluid poured all around it. If our neighbor hadn't been coming home late from work, the whole building could have burned down. The security footage was too grainy to prove it was Madison, but I knew that walk. Irene wanted to call the cops, but we had no solid evidence. The breaking point came when we got back from a weekend trip to find our apartment ransacked. This time, she'd been inside for real. Picture frames smashed with Irene's face scratched out. My work laptop in the bathtub filled with water. Every piece of clothing Irene owned had been cut into strips, but the weirdest part was nothing of mine was touched except for one drawer in my nightstand that was left open. We called the police this time and filed a report. They dusted for prints, but Madison must have worn gloves. The officer said without proof they couldn't do anything except increase patrols in our area. Irene was terrified and started staying at her sister's place some nights. I installed new locks and a security system, but the damage to our sense of safety was already done. For about 2 weeks, everything was quiet. No calls or surprise visits or attempted arson. Irene started staying over again, and we tried to get back to normal. We even joked about how maybe Madison had finally moved on or gotten therapy. Looking back, we should have known she was planning something bigger. Crazy people don't just give up. One night, Irene was in the bathroom for a really long time. When she came out, her face was white and she was holding something in her hand, a rubber from our nightstand drawer. The same drawer Madison had left open during the break-in. Irene held it up to the light and we could see them, tiny pinprick holes all the way through. My stomach dropped as we checked the others. Every single one had been sabotaged. Irene didn't cry or scream. She just got very quiet and started putting on her shoes. I asked where she was going and she said to handle this once and for all. She grabbed her car keys and headed for the door. I tried to stop her, but Irene was done being terrorized. She knew where Madison lived from when I'd pointed out the house months ago. I followed Irene in my car as she drove across town. She was gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles were white. I kept calling her phone, but she wouldn't answer. All I could think about was Irene getting arrested for assault or worse. Madison had pushed us both past our breaking point, but violence wasn't going to solve anything. When we turned onto Madison Street, we saw the flashing lights immediately. 2 police cars and an ambulance were parked outside her house. Neighbors were standing on their lawns watching as paramedics wheeled out a stretcher. Madison was strapped down and unconscious with an oxygen mask on her face. Her roommate was talking to officers and crying. We found out later that Madison had tried to drown herself in the bathtub. Her roommate found her just in time. She left a note admitting to everything: the bed bugs, the fire, the break-in, and the rubbers. She wrote that if she couldn't have me, then she'd make sure nobody could. But when that didn't work, she decided to punish herself instead. Madison survived and got placed on a psychiatric hold. We used her confession note to get a restraining order that she couldn't come within 500 feet of us. She had to move back with her parents in another state for treatment. Irene and I went to therapy to deal with the trauma and paranoia. We're still together, but I still have dreams wondering what she did at that monkey exhibit.